Thank you for tuning in to Love in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, the podcast about how to live life with love. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to go to find long-lasting love using the most innovative and accurate algorithm based in scientific palmistry. Tired of superficial connections? Start your free soulmate connection membership today at loveinyourhands.com. Now here's your host, Cynthia Clark, palm reading consultant and compatibility expert. Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Cynthia Clark, and I'm always excited to talk about love. And of course, family is a big part of love. So we're going to be looking at family influences today. And I want to start out with a little palm reading because family actually does show up in your hands. Your hands do reflect everything about you. So they mirror your influences. Okay, so if you have a really strong family influence, that will show up in your hands. And it's actually going to show up off of your lifeline. Okay, so by the way, your lifeline does not tell you how long you're going to live, because all the lines in your hands do change. Okay, so I want to make that really clear. But you have two major lines. You've got the lifeline, which is your vitality line. It wraps around your thumb ball. And then you've got your head line, which it runs straight across your hand, usually in a horizontal fashion, although sometimes it does curve. And that represents the way that you think. So to see if you have a family influence, you want to see if those two lines are connected at the beginning of the line, okay? So the start of your lifeline and then the start of your headline, if those two lines join together, that shows your family influence. Okay, now in about 20% of hands on average, the lines will be completely disconnected, and that's actually the case on my hand, which shows that I came in actually quite independent, and my parents would attest to this. They just couldn't contain me. So, but you can actually read that. And by the way, if this is connected for a very long time, in other words, if it connects for an inch or more on the hand, that shows a really super strong connection with your family, and your family would have affected your thinking significantly in your early years. And this is neither good nor bad. I mean, you can judge that for yourself, but it does show the influence. So that's today's palm reading lesson. And now I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today. We have Arian Thomas, who is an international healer, teacher, ceremonialist, speaker, shaman, and hypnotherapist. Wow, she's got so much experience. I can't wait to learn from her. She primarily carries the ancient wisdom and subtle energy of an elder and advisor. She is part Cherokee by heritage, and her primary practice is shifting unwanted genetic patterns and shamanic journeying. She engages in energetic healing work, teaching, and speaking. And she's also the author of several books. So welcome, Ariann. I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for that palmistry lesson, because I noticed that I'm really independent too.
Wow, how interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll see, if you look at lots of hands, you'll see 80% of them tend to be connected. So I find the statistics just interesting.
Right. And families are fascinating. They are just fascinating because they are the foundation of our life. They really give us the sense of who we are and where we came from. They also establish the beliefs that we have around the world and of who we are and our place in the world and how we think about relationships with others, our finances, our success in the world, and what makes us happy. And so our family relationships, when we were small and when we're growing up, and as we become adults, are critical in our lives.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big influence.
It certainly is. And so when we get older and we're having difficulties in our lives, one of the things that we want to look at to see how we can make our lives better and how to improve our lives is how we can heal the old family patterns that are getting in our way. And that's what I do. Because a lot of people go into therapy or they try to do a variety of methods to improve their mental health or their financial well-being or other types of issues that come up in their life, but they fail to look at their family issues because, particularly in the United States, we're pretty independent people, whether we have the broken line or not.
Right. Sure.
Because we're raised to think, go out there and do it on your own. You can do it, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we're definitely taught that for sure.
Sure. And we're taught to do it without expecting help and support. And I'm here to tell you, your ancestors want to help you. Your ancestors are here to give you love and advice and support. But beyond that, a lot of us carry burdens and wounds from our ancestors through our DNA. Because we carry the genes that our parents passed on to us, that their parents passed on to us, and the grandparents and the great grandparents and all of that, right?
Right. So this kind of reminds me of the people who get the same illnesses, like
Correct.
mother to daughter to granddaughter. Like people talk about breast cancer runs in my family, just as an example. And it's like, to me, that's a pattern because that gene doesn't have to be activated.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct, Cynthia. And when I started doing this work and I started getting into shamanism, the indigenous people around the world have known for centuries, if not millennia, that our belief system on what we get from the ancestors can be changed. That we can go back and ask our ancestors to heal those wounds of inherited diseases, inherited conflicts with other relatives, with other belief systems, so that we don't have to go, oh, diabetes runs in the family, cancer runs in the family, heart attacks runs in the family. And let me give you a specific example. And the reason I got into this work, about 20 years ago, my family exploded because the secrets that were buried in my family came out about multi-generational sexual abuse. My mother was sexually abused. My sisters were sexually abused. And multiple members of my family were sexually abused. It also came out that several of the other women in my family had been raped. And this had gone on for at least 3 generations and probably many, many more that we didn't even know about. And of course, it was a secret. You weren't supposed to tell. You weren't supposed to say, well, Grandpa did this and Uncle Bill did this and Dad did this and, so-and-so did this. And if you said anything, Mother would say, oh, you're making up stories. Oh, this is a lie. Oh, this didn't happen. Because she was speaking from a place of her own woundedness and her own abuse.
Mm.
And when this came out into the open, then everybody started pointing fingers, and there was blame, and there was shame, and there was guilt, and the whole family fell apart. And of course, I'm the family peacemaker. I'm the one that makes everything better. And everybody was calling me going, oh, you got to tell so-and-so this isn't true. Oh, you've got to tell them that, they've got to own up to this. And blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And it was just awful.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Yeah. And so that was the night that I called out to Spirit and said, help me. There has to be a way that I can do something for my family. And no matter how many times I tell this story, it always brings up those really difficult emotions. Mm. And that's when Spirit led me on the journey to contact my ancestor. And I was led back 450 years to contact an ancestor where all of this began. Mm. And a curse came up where women at that time were being hung or repressed because the men were trying to take away their property and their power and control them. And this was during the time of the repression. Wasn't quite the Inquisition, but it was that period of time. And so the women were trying to control the men through their sexuality. And the whole thing boomeranged. And it turned into sexual abuse. Mm. And when the ancestor found out what had happened and how it had turned back on them and what caused the problems, the curse was lifted. And I brought that energy back into the family, and it took several years. I mean, this didn't happen overnight, but everything calmed down, and the energy was dissipated. There was forgiveness. There was relief. And since that time, there has been no sexual abuse, domestic abuse, or rape in any of the family members. And I come from a very large family.
Yeah, I do too. I come from a Mormon family in Utah. Mm-hmm. So that's my ancestors.
Right.
Huge family. So.
And since then, I have also worked with clients and have cleared heart disease, have cleared generations of bankruptcy, have cleared issues regarding multiple generations of divorce and abandonment in relationships, and lack of success in people's lives. And before I wrote my first book, I would tell people what they do, and they would go, oh, you do that woo-woo stuff.
I know, isn't that frustrating? I know all about that.
Of course. Because those of us who work in the spiritual realm get dismissed because we live in a culture that has a scientific background. And so people want hard facts, mm-hmm. Right? Isn't that what they're looking for?
Yes, that's absolutely true.
So recently, the studies in epigenetics have come forth, and they have verified what the indigenous people have known for centuries.
I love that.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes. And let's define epigenetics for people who don't know what that means.
Okay. Epigenetics is the study of the chemical reaction that lays on top of the DNA genetic traits. Okay? Those are the chemical reactions that turn your genes on and turn other genes off. So what epigenetics has shown us is that your DNA and your genes do not control your destiny. They are like the building blocks that are laying there on the ground when you're born. You know, they're just scattered. And when you grow, you take those building blocks and you can build whatever structure you want in your life. And you can activate each one of your genes by what you believe, by what you think, by how you live your life, by what you eat, by what you believe, by your relationships, by your love, um, by your connection to the divine, um, and uh, and by everything you want and desire in your life. So that if someone says, oh yeah, breast cancer runs in my family, and so that means I'll probably get it, you are now triggering the gene for breast cancer.
Right, exactly.
If you say, oh, my family has breast cancer, but I'm not going to get it because my body is healthy, strong, and vibrant. You are now turning off that gene and turning on the gene for a healthy body and a healthy lifestyle.
Yes, and it totally works.
It absolutely works.
Yeah.
It absolutely works.
Yes, I can definitely attest to this because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in my own body, and I've worked with it for years now in the energy work that I do as well. So yeah, I've seen miracles with it. So
Absolutely.
it really is amazing. And a lot of people feel like, again, they kind of go to that woo-woo mentality, which I would argue that as well, because it's like, well, have you read any books on it, or have you really studied it, or are you just dismissing it because you just don't know about it? So I encourage everybody to read Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, because
Yes.
he really describes it so well and so scientifically that it just, there can be no doubt after you read that book.
None at all. None
Yeah,
at all.
so that's what I recommend.
Yes. And so my first book on healing your family patterns has multiple stories of my clients where they have actually shifted their patterns by contacting their ancestors. And then I followed it up with changing your genetic patterns. And that follows up with the new epigenetic studies. And I have 4 pages of resources in that book.
I love that.
Yes.
So here's a question. Do people have to know what their ancestral patterns are?
No, no. I get that question a lot because I work with a lot of adoptees who don't know their family backgrounds. And your connection with your ancestors is in your genes. You don't have to have it in your head.
Well,
you have it in your body.
Because I feel like there's probably a bunch of stuff that I'm just not aware of that maybe, but my ancestors know, and
Sure.
and my body knows.
Yes. In our culture, it is common that we only know our ancestors for 2 or 3 generations, because many of us are from immigrant families that have come from Europe or Africa or other places. And we lost contact with the ancestors from the old country. In other cultures, like in the Orient and in China and in Russia, I mean, they keep records of their ancestors going back multiple generations. But when I go and contact the ancestors, the path that leads to your ancestors is in your genes.
Mm.
And I've gone back thousands of years
Mm.
to contact ancestors.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's all in your energy field. It's all in your body.
Now, can people contact their ancestors directly? Like if they're doing a meditation, for example, could they just call on a specific, do they need to call a specific ancestor, or could they just say whoever wants to come forward to heal a pattern? You know, what would be a good thing for people to do?
No, you don't need to ask for a specific ancestor. You can go into a meditation, and what you can do is I recommend that you set an intention to ask for an ancestor to answer a specific question or to give you a message that you need to receive. You know, it's like, what do I need to know about this situation? Will the right person come and talk to me and give me a message? Ancestor who has the right information, will you come and talk to me here today? And that's all you need to do.
Hmm.
And as a matter of fact, I have a specific meditation that I've created a video that will take you through this process. It's called Ask Your Ancestor.
I like
And you can go to my website and you can get this meditation, and it will lead you on a journey to your ancestor where you can ask an ancestor whatever question you want. And that ancestor that is right for that specific question will come and talk to you.
Wow, that sounds like so much fun.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
sounds like a lot of fun because I like to do meditations, and I do different types of meditations.
Mhm,
Usually I just ask, you know, my spirit guides, or
mhm.
sometimes I call on different archangels, or, you know, I like to call on different people depending upon what I'm working on. But yeah, I like this idea of the ancestors
Mhm.
because that's not one that I typically do. So,
Well, and if this has to do with a family issue, if
mhm,
this has to do with health,
mhm,
that's an issue that runs through your family. This has to do with family relationships. If this has to do with finances, which are at issue in the family, you know, it's like, you know, I can't find a job. Nobody in the family has had job stability. It's always difficult for us to hold on to a job. If this is a family pattern,
mhm.
then the best person to ask is an ancestor.
Yeah, poverty runs in my family for sure. So, yeah, that's an interesting one.
And see, a lot of us have a history of poverty because we come from a long line of people who have been enslaved, who have been conquered, who have been serfs, um, who have been factory slaves. I mean, we may have gotten paid, but we only got paid a pittance.
Right.
Um, and who have been subservient to masters. And so we have inherited this poverty mentality, and we can ask an ancestor how we can break this issue of poverty in our family
Hmm.
and in our own lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's very empowering.
It is.
And yeah, I think that a lot of people will be interested in just thinking about their own families, and yeah, what's really going on.
Mhm.
And yeah, to not continue to be a victim to the circumstances, and you know, anything that gets us out of victim mode is always really good.
And I do um, karma clearing And that clears out the karma that you have brought into this life from other lifetimes where you have been a slave, where you have been a victim, where you have brought into this life fear from past lives. And you can clear all of that. And if you need help contacting your ancestors and you want to clear out generations of poverty, generations of abuse, generations of health problems, I'm available for one-on-one private sessions so that you can clear out these huge family issues that may be interfering with your daily life now.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds incredibly worthwhile. So yeah, I
I
think,
love doing this work. I just love doing this work.
yeah. So that's terrific. So so tell us a little bit about how people can reach you and where, do you work with people worldwide? Where are you located?
Yes, I have a website at ancestrallineageclearing.com, and that carries all of my information concerning my private sessions. I also do group sessions. I do classes, and it carries the connection to my books. And 90% of my sessions I do over Zoom or over the telephone because I work with people internationally. I work with people in other countries, on other continents, and it is very effective to work over the internet and over the phone. So don't be hesitant to book a session with me over the phone if you're not in Northern California. And I have a special gift, which you can put on your website for being on your podcast, Cynthia. And I'm giving away a free PDF of my book, Healing Family Patterns, as well as a couple of PDFs on how you can change some of your genetic patterns and connect with your ancestors. Just some simple steps that you can take in your daily life, as well as coupon discounts for a private session with me. And I also have a program on how to activate your happiness codes so that you can bring more happiness and joy and success in your life.
That sounds very worthwhile, especially to bring more love into the world too. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's what we all need.
yes. All right. Well, that's very generous of you. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting and inspiring. So thanks for coming on the show. And remember, everyone out there, that you can live life with love. So get out there and do it. And we look forward to connecting with you again really soon. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to Love in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find the secret ingredients to your soulmate. Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today using the most innovative and accurate algorithm to match you to potential long-lasting love, all at loveinyourhands.com.